Have you ever noticed something strange about attraction? Some men try extremely hard to impress a woman. They compliment her constantly, try to look confident, and throw out clever pickup lines, yet somehow, they still get rejected. Meanwhile, another man walks in, says very little, asks a few simple questions, and suddenly the conversation flows naturally. The reason is psychological. Attraction is rarely created by what you say about yourself. It's created by how deeply you make someone talk about themselves. And the secret most people miss is this. The right question can instantly create emotional closeness, while the wrong one can shut everything down. When a woman feels understood and emotionally comfortable, she naturally opens up. That's why certain questions can build intimacy without triggering rejection. One powerful question that works surprisingly well is asking a woman what people usually misunderstand about her. Almost everyone in the world feels slightly misjudged by others. People often believe others only see the surface and never the real person underneath. When you ask this question, you immediately signal something different. You're not trying to impress her. You're trying to understand her. For example, imagine sitting together in a relaxed conversation, and instead of asking the usual small talk questions like where she works or what she studies, you calmly ask, "What's something about you that people usually misunderstand?" Suddenly, the conversation shifts from surface-level talk to something deeper. She might tell you people think she's cold when she's actually shy, or that people think she's serious when she actually has a playful side. In that moment, she begins sharing something personal, and when someone shares something personal with you, emotional connection begins to form. Another powerful question taps into something even deeper inside the human brain: passion and excitement. Asking a woman what makes her feel truly alive can change the entire energy of a conversation. Psychologically, when people talk about moments that excite them, their brain actually replays the emotion connected to those memories. So if she starts describing traveling to new places, dancing, hiking in nature, or watching sunsets at the beach, she begins to relive the emotional feeling tied to those moments. Her voice becomes more animated, her energy rises, and her mood lifts. What's fascinating is that your presence becomes linked to that positive emotional state. She isn't just enjoying the memory she's describing. She's enjoying the feeling while sitting there with you. Another interesting psychological shift happens when you ask about the kind of energy she enjoys being around. Most men directly ask what type of man a woman likes, but that question can feel obvious and pressured. When you ask about energy instead, the conversation feels deeper and more thoughtful. She might say she enjoys calm people, confident people, funny people, or people who make her feel relaxed. While she's describing that energy, her mind naturally begins comparing you to that description without even realizing it. If your vibe matches what she's saying, attraction begins building quietly in the background. No convincing is required because the connection forms naturally inside her own thoughts. Curiosity is another powerful emotional trigger, and one way to activate it is by asking what she has always wanted to try but never did. Everyone carries secret interests, dreams, or experiences they've imagined but never acted on. Maybe she has always wanted to travel alone to another country, learn something artistic, or try an adventurous activity she has been slightly afraid of. When she talks about these hidden desires, her imagination begins to activate. Instead of talking about the past, she starts imagining possibilities in the future. Psychologically, this shifts the conversation into anticipation, and anticipation creates emotional excitement. The moment people start imagining future experiences, the interaction begins to feel more meaningful and alive. Sometimes, however, the deepest connections come from the simplest questions. Asking what small thing instantly makes her day better might seem simple, but it reveals something very important about her emotional world. People feel warmth when they talk about small joys. She might say morning coffee, listening to music while driving, watching a favorite show, or receiving a random compliment. These answers tell you something valuable about how she experiences happiness. More importantly, when someone notices and cares about the small details that brighten your day, it creates a feeling of comfort and emotional safety, and comfort is one of the strongest foundations of attraction. Conversations become even more interesting when you gently introduce a sense of mystery. Asking whether she believes people meet for a reason subtly moves the conversation into deeper territory. Suddenly, you're no longer talking about daily routines or random topics. You're talking about fate, coincidence, timing, and the strange ways people cross paths. Some women will say they believe everything happens for a reason. Others might say life is just random. But either way, the conversation becomes thoughtful and intriguing. When someone begins thinking about meaningful connections, the interaction itself can start to feel more significant. It creates the feeling that maybe this meeting isn't just another random conversation. Perhaps one of the most revealing questions you can ask is what kind of person makes her feel completely comfortable. This question quietly unlocks emotional safety, which is one of the strongest psychological drivers of intimacy. When she answers, she's describing the type of presence that allows her to relax and be herself. She might say someone who listens carefully, someone calm, someone who doesn't judge, or someone genuine. As she explains this, her mind naturally begins noticing whether your behavior matches those qualities. If it does, the connection grows stronger because she starts feeling that comfort with you in real time. The truth is that most people misunderstand attraction completely. They think connection is built through impressive stories, clever jokes, or trying to appear perfect. But psychology tells a different story. Real connection grows when someone feels seen, understood, and emotionally safe. And one of the fastest ways to create that feeling is through thoughtful questions that open the door to deeper conversations. When a woman feels comfortable sharing her thoughts, her dreams, and even the small details of her personality, she naturally begins to associate that comfort with you. In that moment, rejection becomes far less likely because the interaction has moved beyond surface-level attraction. It becomes something deeper, a genuine emotional connection, and sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say in a conversation isn't a clever line or a compliment. Sometimes, it's simply the right question, at the right moment. Konanue kro isko. And once that emotional connection begins to form, something interesting starts happening beneath the surface of the conversation. The dynamic slowly shifts. Instead of you trying to keep her interested, she begins leaning into the interaction herself. This happens because human beings naturally feel closer to the people who allow them to express their inner thoughts. Psychologists often refer to this as emotional investment. The more someone talks about their feelings, ideas, and experiences with you, the more their brain starts associating you with comfort and trust. That's why conversations that feel deep and meaningful tend to create stronger bonds than conversations that stay on the surface. Another subtle but powerful approach is asking a woman about a moment in her life that changed the way she sees people. This question invites reflection, and reflection reveals personality. Maybe she shares a story about a friendship that taught her something important about loyalty, or an experience that changed how she views trust. When people tell stories about meaningful moments in their lives, they reveal not only what happened, but also how they interpret the world. And when someone listens carefully, without interrupting or judging, it creates a rare feeling of emotional space. Most people don't get that kind of attention in everyday conversations. That's why it feels special. You might also notice that when conversations reach this level, the tone naturally slows down, the energy becomes calmer and more focused. This is a good sign. It means the interaction has moved away from superficial social talk and into something more personal. At this stage, asking a thoughtful question like what kind of memories make her smile years later can deepen the emotional atmosphere even further. People love revisiting memories that carry warmth. Maybe she remembers childhood moments, funny stories with friends, or small experiences that unexpectedly stayed in her mind. When she shares those memories, she's opening a small window into the emotional moments that shaped her happiness.